I'm going to carefully unbuckle this. And just make sure you don't hurt yourself too much. There we go. Okay, I loosened. You see, I have a little bit of still some sticky residue that didn't come off, but that's okay. You know, I'll save that and eat that later. This to the side. And now we have a perfect little cake. It's actually on a very hot piece of metal. Let's check it out. But remember how we did our little parchment paper on top? So what I'm going to do is carefully pick up the edges of this. And slide that right out. Since this is still very, very hot, it's not really helping it cool the cake. So the more we can get rid of all the hot pans out of it and let it rest carefully on a cooling rack or just a table, it'll cool nice and quickly. So I'm going to just probably give you this maybe another 10-15 minutes to cool, and while we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and start making the topping for the chocolate. Alright, so now I got my 1 cup of butter, or half a cup of butter that's 1 stick that's now chopped again into cubes, and now I have 8 ounces of chocolate. This is double the amount that we did earlier for when we first made the cake batter. And the reason for this is that we actually are going to top this with a nice thick chocolate crust on top of the cake, and we want it to be, we don't want it to be smooth and like smooth melted chocolate. We want it to actually be kind of firm. Not as firm as like an M&M shell or something you might do chocolate covered strawberries with, but something that's still going to be slightly firm, but once you use a fork or something to bite into it, it gives, and it kind of melts into a nice soft chocolate crust. And that actually works well with the cake, since you have a very soft flourless chocolate cake with a semi-firm thick layer of just chocolate topping on top. Now if you want it to be more like a hard crust, what you can do is actually use less butter, and you'll get a more firm topping, kind of a shell if you want. And that might be something you might want to do if you were going to do like chocolate covered strawberries for someone. Very easy to make. If you wanted to do even softer, you actually wanted more like a nice liquid, hot melted liquid chocolate syrup on top, then you'd want to add less, either use less chocolate and the same amount of butter, or same amount of chocolate and add more butter, and you'll get a more creamy consistency. So that's all we're really doing, is just adjusting that. And in this case, again, using a 1 stick of butter with 8 ounces of chocolate ends up being just about the right amount I felt for this topping. So I'm going to let this melt, giving it another 3-4 minutes, and then I'll go ahead and show you how to top it, and we'll let it cool, and then we'll be done. Alright, I have my melted chocolate here, and one thing I didn't mention is that the cake and the topping are both made with dark chocolate. If you want to mix and match or use different chocolates in either one, you can. Like, you may want to do a milk chocolate or a semi-sweet topping with a dark chocolate crust, or cake, or you know, could do half and half, or do white chocolate topping, whatever you like. And again, now you can kind of see the consistency. Still looks very thin, but it's a little bit thicker than what we had earlier. And I'm going to now carefully put this on the cake, and already it's pretty cool now. It's still a little warm, but relatively cool. And I'm just going to carefully pour in the center and spread it out and just top it. Now what I'm not going to do is actually let it go over too much of the sides, because that'll be kind of a mess. But you could, if you wanted to cover the whole thing from top to bottom in the topping, you could. I like to just fill in all the gaps and little holes, so it makes a nice, clean, smooth topping, and just go almost to the edge of the cake, just leaving maybe a little bit of a rim. If not, you know, it's no big deal. I don't think anyone's going to complain. But just something to really nicely fill on the whole thing. And once this cools, I'm going to go ahead and top it with some powdered sugar and strawberries. But since this cake is actually for someone tomorrow that I'll be giving as a little congratulations gift, I'm actually going to go ahead and cut the strawberries in the morning and leave this in the fridge to cool. Because if I take the strawberries, cut them up now, top everything, put in the freezer, by the time I get in the morning, the strawberries are going to be a little mushy. And unfortunately, you don't really want a mushy fruit on a nice chocolate cake. You kind of want to save it as best, or at least wait till as much as you can before you have to put it on there. So let's see, it looks like that might be just about right. I'm going to just give it a quick back and forth. And let me see if this all looks good. Yeah, that looks good to me. And you have a little extra chocolate, eat it later. It's great. Now I got my little powdered sugar, and I'm just going to go ahead and just top on the top. Give it a little sprinkling, so then I won't have to do tomorrow. I think that looks just about good. Yeah, that looks good. Don't go too crazy. Alright, maybe a little more. Okay. There you go. Okay, perfect. That looks great. That'll be your topping cake, and we'll go ahead and put strawberries all in the center, and maybe a little raspberries in the top, like we did earlier in the recipe. So there you have it. Nice flourless chocolate cake, easy to make, not too bad. Doesn't use too much any special kind of equipment, and like I said, it's a nice thin cake. You can have a small layer, eat it bite by bite, but it is nice and rich. So there you go. Thank you.